Life has a way of bringing every one of us to the edge. At some point, the comfort of routine is torn away, and we find ourselves staring into an abyss, uncertain, afraid, and vulnerable. It's here in these crucibles of suffering that we are tested. The Stoics taught us that suffering is not merely something to be endured. It is something to be engaged. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path." Never forget, within every setback there is an opportunity. Fire, trial, adversity. These are not curses, they are invitations. Invitations to confront the self, to refine the spirit, and to strip away what is unnecessary. The fire doesn't destroy. It reveals. But this journey isn't passive. It's not something that happens to you, it's something you choose. The descent into darkness. The willingness to step into suffering voluntarily requires immense courage. Yet, as history and philosophy remind us, it is often in the deepest shadows that we discover the brightest light. Fire is a primal force. It destroys, yes, but it also purifies. The blacksmith knows this. The philosopher understands it. Just as gold is tested in fire, so too is the human soul refined through trials. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest minds, endured exile, loss, and political betrayal. Yet he wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." But what do we do when the fire comes for us? Do we shrink back? Do we curse fate? Or do we step forward, arms outstretched, ready to let the flames do their work? History is filled with those who met the fire head-on. Epictetus, born a slave, lived a life of limitation and hardship, yet he didn't allow suffering to make him bitter. Instead, he saw it as a teacher. The fire isn't random. It doesn't come to punish you. It comes to reveal you. The Stoics believe that everything is part of a larger order, and within that order, suffering has a purpose. It's easy to see the fire as cruelty, but what if it's kindness in disguise? What if the pain you're enduring now is forging you into something greater, something stronger? The fire asks only one thing of you. Do not turn away. If fire represents trial, then darkness represents the unknown, the uncharted territory within ourselves. It is the abyss that stares back at us when we close our eyes at night. Voluntarily stepping into darkness is no small feat. It means facing fears without guarantees. It means accepting that the journey inward will not always be pleasant. The crucifixion stands as a powerful metaphor for this. Whether you view it religiously or symbolically, it represents the voluntary descent into the deepest suffering imaginable. And yet, from that suffering emerges redemption, hope, and light. But this is not unique to religious narratives. The hero's journey, from ancient myths to modern stories, always involves a descent, a journey into the underworld, a confrontation with the dragon, or a battle with inner demons. The Stoics remind us, avoiding the descent does not spare you from suffering. It only prolongs it. To refuse the journey is to remain stagnant, trapped in fear, unable to grow. The darkness isn't the enemy. The enemy is the voice within you that says, "Stay where it's safe." But safety is an illusion. True safety lies in courage, in the willingness to face what frightens you most. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." How much of your fear exists only in your mind? How much of the darkness is simply a projection of your own doubts? Here lies the paradox. It is in the deepest darkness that we often find the most profound light. It's in suffering that we discover meaning. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the unimaginable horrors of the Holocaust, wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. Meaning isn't handed to us, it's earned. It's carved out of struggle, out of endurance, out of persistence when everything screams at you to give up." The Stoics teach us amor fati, to love one's fate, not to simply accept it, but to embrace it, to see every moment, every hardship, as an essential part of your story. Your suffering is not wasted. Your descent into darkness is not without purpose. Every trial, every scar, every tear is building something within you that cannot be shaken. But you must allow yourself to see it. You must have faith, not blind faith in outcomes, but faith in your capacity to endure and grow. You are stronger than you know. The light is waiting for you on the other side of the trial. The fire will come. The darkness will call. This is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. When that moment arrives, remember this. You were built for this. You were made to endure, to rise, to confront the trials of life with unwavering courage. Suffering is not meaningless. It is not arbitrary. It is a bridge, a doorway to something greater. So when the fire rages, step into it. When the darkness looms, walk forward. And remember, the brightest light is reserved for those brave, enough to journey into the deepest night. You will stumble. You will falter. But you will rise. And when you emerge, you will not be the same. You will be refined. You will be unshakable. In our pursuit to protect those we love, our children, our friends, ourselves, we often fall into a trap. We seek to eliminate every obstacle, smooth out every path, and remove every discomfort. It's a noble intention, but beneath it lies a dangerous assumption that comfort is synonymous with happiness. The Stoics understood something crucial. Comfort does not create character. Struggle does. Resilience does. The grappling with hardship, the confrontation with fear, that's where meaning is forged. We live in an era where abundance is more accessible than ever. A parent with wealth can provide their child with every luxury, every convenience, every possible safeguard against discomfort. But in doing so, they risk robbing that child of something irreplaceable. The fire that comes from facing adversity, the adventure of stepping into the unknown, and the destiny that emerges from overcoming hardship. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." The greatest poverty isn't material, it's spiritual. It's the poverty of a life without challenge, without purpose, without the crucible of hardship to shape the soul. So today, let us explore this. Why does struggle matter? Why does adventure call to us? And why is grappling with life's challenges not a burden, but a gift? Imagine a tree growing in a greenhouse, protected from wind, storms, and harsh weather. It grows tall and straight, but weak. The roots don't drive deep into the soil, and the bark doesn't toughen against the elements. When the first real storm comes, it falls. Humans are no different. We need resistance. We need friction. Without it, we become fragile, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Seneca practiced this truth through voluntary deprivation. Despite his immense wealth, he would periodically live as though he were poor, eating the simplest food, sleeping on the ground, wearing the roughest clothing. Why? Because he understood that resilience isn't built in abundance, it's built in scarcity. Deprivation isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It strips away the unnecessary, the excess, and the distractions. It reveals what truly matters. When we shield ourselves or our children from every hardship, we do not spare them suffering. We simply delay it. And worse, we send them into the world unequipped to face it. The Stoics remind us comfort is a cage. It feels safe, but it robs you of your strength. So embrace discomfort. Invite small struggles into your life. It might seem harsh, but it is, in fact, the deepest kindness you can offer yourself and others. Adventure isn't just about grand expeditions or mythical quests. It's about stepping into uncertainty. It's about leaving the safety of what's known and risking failure, pain, or loss. Life, in its rawest form, is an adventure, but it's one we often avoid. We build routines, surround ourselves with comforts, and cling to predictability because the unknown terrifies us. But as the Stoics teach us, nothing truly worth having comes without risk. The great explorers of history, Odysseus, Marco Polo, Shackleton, did not grow wise and strong in safety. They stepped into chaos. They faced storms, hunger, fear, and failure. And in doing so, they found not just distant lands but deeper parts of themselves. Seneca again offers us wisdom. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult. When we remove adventure from our lives or the lives of our children, we remove the spark of discovery. We rob them of the chance to confront their fears, to adapt, to survive, and to thrive. The unknown isn't the enemy, it's the gateway to growth. Every person carries within them a unique path, a destiny shaped not by comfort, but by challenge. The Stoics spoke often of fate, not as a cruel and unchangeable force, but as an ally. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" Destiny doesn't reveal itself in idle comfort. It emerges through action, through struggle, through answering the call to step into the fire and endure. When we strip away every challenge, we strip away the opportunity for purpose. Without purpose, life becomes hollow. This is the paradox of struggle. The very things we wish to avoid, pain, fear, uncertainty are often the very things that give our lives meaning. Imagine a life where everything was handed to you, every obstacle removed, every difficulty solved before you even knew it existed. Would you be grateful? Would you be proud of what you'd achieved? Or would you feel empty? The Stoics remind us that destiny isn't something that happens to you, it's something you meet. Head on with courage and conviction. The greatest gift you can offer yourself or anyone else is not comfort. It's not luxury. It's not the removal of every obstacle. The greatest gift is resilience. It's the ability to stand firm in the storm, to face discomfort with dignity, and to meet challenges with an open heart. Struggle is not the enemy, it's the teacher. Adventure is not the risk, it's the reward. And destiny is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. So step willingly into discomfort. Allow yourself or those you love to face the unknown. Do not rob yourself of the very thing that makes life meaningful, the fire of struggle, the call of adventure, and the gravity of destiny. For in the end, it's not comfort that makes us strong. It's the challenges we've faced, the fears we've overcome, and the mountains we've climbed. Stand firm. Embrace the struggle. Fulfill your destiny. Life, in its rawest form, carries with it an undeniable weight. Suffering, betrayal, malevolence. These are not exceptions to the rule. They are woven into the very fabric of existence. To deny this is to turn away from reality. The Stoics understood this truth deeply. They did not waste time asking, "Why is life hard?" Instead, they asked, "How do I face life's hardships with strength and purpose?" You will suffer. You will be betrayed. You will confront darkness within and without. These are not possibilities, they are certainties. But amid this grim reality, a question arises. Where do you find the strength to carry on? Where do you find meaning that endures through the storm? The world offers answers: hedonism, the pursuit of pleasure; cynicism, a retreat into bitterness; anarchism, the rejection of all constraints. These paths offer fleeting relief, a brief escape from the weight of existence. But they are hollow. They are fragile. The Stoics propose a different answer. They remind us that meaning is not something stumbled upon, it is something earned. And it is earned through the conscious choice to face suffering with courage, to confront malevolence with virtue, and to seek purpose beyond fleeting pleasures. Look around you. Life is filled with trials that no one escapes: loss, illness, betrayal, death. These are not punishments. They are truths. They are the conditions of existence. Epictetus, born into slavery, knew this truth intimately. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Suffering is not optional. Your response, however, is, some people run from this reality. They numb themselves with distractions, pleasure, substances, entertainment. Others descend into bitterness, becoming cynics who scoff at hope and virtue, convinced that the world is irredeemable. But avoidance changes nothing. Running from suffering does not eliminate it. It only delays its confrontation. And bitterness is not wisdom. It is surrender disguised as insight. The Stoics knew that suffering was not just something to endure, it was something to use. Every hardship, every betrayal, every moment of malevolence can be transformed into an opportunity to strengthen your character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. If suffering is inevitable, let it become your teacher, not your tormentor." When life feels unbearable, the temptation to turn to pleasure or to reject everything is strong. Hedonism whispers, "Drown your suffering in pleasure. Forget your pain with indulgence. Chase every fleeting high and silence the ache within. For a moment it works. But pleasure is a fire that consumes itself. What feels good today demands more tomorrow. It's a trap that leaves you emptier with every cycle. Cynicism, on the other hand, offers a bitter refuge. Nothing matters. Everything is corrupt. Hope is foolish. Trust is naive. But cynicism is not clarity, it's cowardice in disguise. It shields you from vulnerability, but also robs you of meaning. Anarchism, the rejection of structure and discipline, promises freedom but often delivers chaos. Without constraints, without purpose, life becomes aimless, a storm without a direction. The Stoics reject these paths because they know that they are temporary. They are hollow structures built on sand. True meaning isn't found in escapism or bitterness. It's found in responsibility, in duty, and in the choice to meet life's struggles with virtue. If pleasure fails, if bitterness corrodes, and if chaos leaves us hollow, then where does one find a sustaining meaning? When the storm arrives, when crisis strikes and the world cracks, open beneath your feet, what holds you steady? What keeps you from falling into despair, from collapsing under the weight of chaos? If you look closely, you'll notice something remarkable. In those moments of crisis, people don't cling to pleasure, nor do they find solace in distractions. They don't reach for indulgence or empty comforts. Instead, they lean on the bonds they've built, the responsibilities they've shouldered, and the sacrifices they've made. It's not the easy, carefree moments of life that bring lasting meaning. It's the burdens we've willingly accepted, the sacrifices we've made, and the connections we've fought to preserve. The Stoics knew this well. Seneca wrote, "A great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude." But independence does not mean isolation. Strength does not grow in loneliness. Meaning arises from the responsibilities we willingly embrace, from the weight we choose to carry. Let us explore this. Why does meaning emerge from responsibility? Why do relationships, sacrifice, and burdens hold the deepest purpose? When crisis hits, you don't reach for wealth or status. You don't reach for fame or fleeting pleasures. No, the first thing you seek is connection. You turn to those you love, those you trust, and those who depend on you. Why? Because responsibility creates roots. It anchors you when the winds of chaos blow hardest. Friendships, family bonds, intimate relationships. These are not passive luxuries. They are earned. They require sacrifice, time, and effort. They require showing up when it's inconvenient and staying present when it's painful. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. But what gives you the strength to revise your estimate in times of suffering? It's the weight of your responsibilities, the things you cannot abandon without abandoning yourself. In moments of crisis, responsibility is not a burden, it is a lifeline. The father who keeps showing up for his children even when exhausted. The friend who stands by you when the world turns cold. The spouse who remains steadfast when the road gets hard. These are not small things, they are everything. Because in shouldering responsibility, we find resilience. In staying true to those who rely on us, we discover strength we never knew we had. Sacrifice is not a word we often celebrate. It carries the scent of loss, of giving something away. But the Stoics understood that sacrifice is not about loss, it's about exchange. You give up something lesser for something greater. You trade fleeting comfort for enduring meaning. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." When you sacrifice your time to build a friendship, you gain loyalty. When you sacrifice comfort to support your family, you gain love. When you sacrifice ease to shoulder a burden, you gain strength. It's easy to avoid sacrifice. It's tempting to stay on the sidelines, to protect yourself from the risks and costs of responsibility. But in doing so, you sacrifice something far greater, the chance to live a life of purpose. The firefighter who runs into the blaze, the parent who works late into the night to provide, the leader who shoulders blame to protect their team, all of them are sacrificing. But none of them are losing. In fact, they are gaining something priceless, a life filled with meaning, dignity, and purpose. The Stoics teach us, do not fear sacrifice. Embrace it, choose it. Let it refine you and strip away the trivial so that only the essential remains. There's an old saying, the heaviest burdens are given to the strongest shoulders. But the truth is, strength doesn't pre-exist the burden, it is forged by it. The Stoics believed that burdens are not punishments, they are opportunities. They are the forge in which your character is shaped. Marcus Aurelius, burdened with the responsibilities of an empire, reflected, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. The burden you carry shapes your thoughts, your actions, and ultimately your life. But burdens are not random. The burdens you willingly accept, building friendships, strengthening family bonds, carrying your duty with honor. Those are the weights that give life meaning. If you run from burdens, you may feel light, but you will also feel hollow. A life without weight is a life without depth. The mentor who invests time in guiding a younger person. The mother who endures sleepless nights caring for her child. The friend who listens patiently when others turn away. These are burdens, yes, but they are also gifts. They are the threads that weave together a meaningful life. Do not resent your burdens. Instead, let them define you. Let them carve strength into your soul and purpose into your days. Meaning isn't something you stumble upon. It's not a prize handed to you by fate. It's something you earn through responsibility, sacrifice, and carrying your burdens with courage. In times of crisis, you won't look back and remember the nights you spent chasing pleasure. You won't remember the easy days, the idle comforts, or the moments of indulgence. No, you'll remember the times you showed up when you didn't have to, the burdens you carried when no one was watching, the sacrifices you made for something greater than yourself. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has lived the longest, but the man who has lived most that counts." Living most doesn't mean avoiding hardship. It means embracing it. It means choosing responsibility over ease, sacrifice over comfort, and burdens over idleness. This is the path of meaning. This is the way of the Stoic. When the storm comes, and it will hold you steady, it won't be pleasure. It won't be wealth. It won't be indulgence. It will be the friendships you've nurtured, the family bonds you've strengthened, the sacrifices you've made, and the burdens you've willingly carried. Meaning is not found in what you take from life, it's found in what you give to it. So embrace responsibility. Carry your burdens with pride. Make sacrifices for what truly matters. Because when the storm finally clears, and you stand amidst the wreckage, you'll realize something profound. It was never the burden that broke you. It was the burden that built you. Stand firm. Carry the weight. Find your meaning. Stand firm in the face of life's trials. Embrace responsibility. Endure suffering with dignity. And let your burdens shape you into something unbreakable. The path is clear. The choice is yours. Walk it with purpose. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let this truth guide you through every storm, every burden, and every trial.